Welcome to Module 3, where we're going to be talking about painting the light key and how it is affected by time of year. So what we'll be covering today is first, the general light key, light envelope for each season. Then how the time of year has affected the light and color in the three landscapes that we've already done. Then lastly, we're going to talk about how the time of year affects the two demo subjects for this module. So just a quick reminder that when we're talking about the qualities of light, we're talking in particular with the light envelope about the color of the light and the clarity of the light. So the color of the light is affected by the angle or the direction of the light. And that is going to be most strongly impacted by time. So we've already seen in Module 2 that the time of day impacts the angle of the light source in relationship to the subject, and that the angle makes the light warmer or cooler. The same holds true when we're talking about the color of the light and time of year. As the sun moves away from the equator or away from the landscape, the horizon in the winter, then the light becomes much warmer because the sun is at a lower angle. As the sun moves closer to the equator in the summertime, then the light becomes much more neutral and almost yellow-white. So the angle of the sun as it relates to where the sun is in the sky, depending on time of year, will profoundly change the color of the light. So we'll be talking about the clarity of the light and the difference between strength and diffusion of the light when we get to primarily talking about atmosphere in the next module. So for our purposes in Module 3, just as in Module 2, we're looking only at strong, clear light, and then we'll look at the effects of diffusion and atmosphere in Module 4. So the light envelope for each season changes with the color that is created by the angle of the light. In the summer, the color of the light tends to be more neutral and can vary from yellow to white. Remember, it's more warm in the morning and afternoon, and very neutral, almost pure white in the noonday light. In the fall, the light is warmer and varies from yellow to yellow-orange. In the winter, the light is at its warmest because the sun is at its lowest angle. And the light color will vary from yellow through yellow-orange to red. In the spring, the light returns to being warm because the angle of the sun is higher, and it ranges from yellow to yellow-orange again. So let's look at how the time of year affects the landscapes that we've already finished. Think about the noonday light striking that pecan tree so that you have strong contrast in value, that overhead directional light, and you have very clear neutral to warm light. In the morning afternoon light, again, that is a summer scene. So we have a light color, because it's morning, that is warm and yellow. The overall color of the light is warm and yellow, which is why the shadows become very blue-violet. In the fall painting we did in Module 2, we have very warm light. Remember, in fall, the light becomes yellow, yellow-orange. This is late afternoon, so it's not just a fall painting or a late afternoon painting. It is late afternoon, sunset in the fall. So the color of the light is impacted by both the time of day and the time of year, which enhance the overall warmth of the light to bringing it to its maximum warmth for that time of year. So because it's sunset, you would also have the same kind of effect at sunrise. You'll remember this painting from Composition, Color, and Light. It's a great example of how color changes, the color of the light changes in winter. This is a winter scene. It is afternoon light, not sunset, but afternoon light. Look at the length of the shadows and the amount of light striking the trees. It's afternoon, but because the light is at its warmest, it appears just as warm as the sunset in the fall. So in the wintertime, the light becomes very, very warm and yellow to yellow, orange, and red. In the spring, this is just another example of one for that time of year, although we're not painting this one and we haven't painted this one. In the spring, remember the light is warm. It's not as warm in winter. And so even though this is morning, it is not going to be as warm as the last one we looked at from winter. So thirdly, how does the time of year affect the two demo subjects that we're going to be diving into for this module? In the example for winter, we're going to be working on this afternoon light as it's striking across open fields to the trees on the left-hand side of the road and those distant trees. You can tell from the angle of the shadows that the sun is located behind our shoulder to the right. So the full blast of the sun is really hitting those trees behind the power pole. So we have warmer light, even though it is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We have warmer light because it's lower light. And then the painting is going to reflect that. The shadows become very cool because in the wintertime, the overall temperature of the shadows, the overall color of the shadows becomes very blue, almost an ultramarine blue for the most part. Again, you can see that in same kind of effect later in the afternoon, so the light is even warmer, in the one from Composition, Color, and Light. In the spring painting we're going to be working on, we have, again, really strong light. The light source is to our left, over our shoulder, and it is striking those distant trees with very strong, warm light. So you can tell from the angle of the shadows that it's fairly early in the day, and so the light is a little bit more intense. So our final painting will reflect that warm spring light. So what we've covered in today is the overall general light key light envelope for each season, how the time of year affects the three landscapes we've already done, because we've already dealt with some landscapes that are affected by time of year, and how the time of year affects the two demo subjects that we're going to be diving into for this module. So let's get started and mix some paint.